Hey team, regular listeners of the pod will know I will never shy away from an opportunity to talk about discharge on the pod, and luckily our sponsor Skimpies is giving me an incredible opportunity to do just that. Anybody who's known me for a while will know I am fascinated by women who can just go commando without a care in the world. My bod is just not built like that, especially post-kids. But I do still want the freedom of no underwear lines, especially when I'm getting my squats on at the gym. Enter Skimpies, the original leggings liner. You just press the Skimpies into your leggings and you've got an organic cotton barrier right where you need it. And it stays put. It's crazy, even during a sweaty workout. With hundreds of thousands sold, it's a no-brainer. Go to skimpies.com to get started. Skimpies, we just want to be in your pants. Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. The pivot, the hustle, the passion project. Terms that seem so much more common in conversations with people raising kids today than ever before. I think that's driven by a lot of reasons. For example, having fun, creative jobs just seems more accessible than ever before because entertainment has been so heavily democratized by streamers and social media. A very small percentage of people have become incredibly wealthy doing decidedly unserious things, and so it makes the possibility of doing the same feel that much more attainable. The other piece is that a generation of parents are trying to figure out how to make ends meet, maybe have some joy in their lives, and also figure out how to have a job that allows them to be more present with their kids, at least more so than the traditional grind of an office job or a 9-to-5 allows. For me, and for so many others who are going down the path of pursuing a passion as business, it can feel, and I think I'm being pretty vulnerable when I say this, incredibly uncomfy to build something in the public eye, to maybe de-emphasize a previous portfolio of work and start from scratch building something new. It requires a shocking amount of self-belief. But as today's episode reminded me, you maybe don't need as much self-belief at first if your friends and family can fill in the gaps for you while you're trying to figure it out and get over your own cringe. There's a lot of that. I love today's episode for a lot of reasons. I really like being surprised by people's stories. I never would have considered our chic, well-heeled guest to have been a feral outdoor kid climbing trees, and I love it. I never would have pegged the daughter of a fashion industry badass to have felt discouraged by her parents for going into the field herself. I never would have considered how being an only child, or feeling like an only child, could make someone an incredible salesperson. Liza Lieberman is a personal and celebrity stylist who grew her passion for styling for the world to see on Instagram. Initially as a fun escape from her serious finance job into a sought-after service. From dressing her clients for state dinners and red carpets to weddings and every day, Liza has figured out how to leverage her superpowers in sales, strategy, and business with her high empath calling card to build a devoted client base. This episode covers a lot. What it can be like to have a highly ambitious parent when you're a kid, the good and the complicated, experiencing sexual harassment in the workplace, especially as a young person, parenting kids that remind us of ourselves, how losing a parent can affect your passions in unexpected ways, why people who go to Wisconsin are wild for it, some quick thoughts on how to level up your looks without a big price tag, and so much in between. It's all here. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Like, subscribe, leave a review. You know what to do. Enjoy, Liza.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the virtual closet, Liza. Actually, you're the perfect person to be in a closet with. I think you spend a lot of time in a closet, probably.
I live in a closet. I'm in my styling studio right now, which is a glorified closet.
One of the things that we will get to when we get to sort of your stage of life now is I want to talk about closets, both kids' closets and our own. We'll get there. But I'm so excited to talk to you. I love, you clearly have a New York accent.
I definitely do. I mean, sometimes
Like, you're the real
people are
deal.
confused. I am.
Confused
Let's
by
call it
what?
New York. Sometimes people think I'm Canadian, and it's like the most flattering thing anyone could possibly say to me because I'm like, no, but okay.
Yeah, I'll take it, like a boot, but
Yeah.
you're not giving Canadian to me. You are giving like proper New York City girl, and I have such a soft spot in my heart for that accent. I love it so much.
Thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
You should. I mean, I can call you Canadian if you want. Liza.
Today I'll be
Toronto.
a New Yorker. Totally.
Okay, so where in New York where did you grow up then? Where were you born?
I grew up on Long Island, and I went to college in Wisconsin, and then I lived in London for a few years, and then I lived in New York for a few years, like in the city, and now I'm back on Long Island with my kids.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we can bond. I also did a chunk of time in London, so we can bond over our London time.
Ugh, the
The
days.
best. The days. And I had my New York days as well. Now I'm in LA. But okay. So being born in Long Island, we've established we both have Jewish hair texture. Were you like growing up in quote like Jewish Long Island or a little bit more of a mix?
I'm gonna say as Jewish Long Island as you can really get. I grew up in Roslyn, so if anyone knows Long Island, they know Roslyn.
Amazing. And what was the sort of like, were you growing up around a lot of extended family or was it just your sort of nuclear unit there?
My nuclear unit. I'm my mom's only child, and my dad had kids from a previous marriage, but they were like, older, but in a different stage of life.
So you sort of had the experience of growing up a little bit like an only child because you were the only one really in the house.
Yes, absolutely.
And do you identify as an only child?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know how my siblings feel about that, but we're 16 and 22 years apart, so I really did grow up alone.
And when you think about like sort of the stereotypes of only children, what do you think they are? Everybody has their own take.
Yeah, so I think only children can be very polarizing. They're either extremely independent or looking for their partner in all things. Like they need to have someone near them because they missed it so much.
Yeah.
So I think that's usually how it goes. I fall in the category of like extremely independent. I could be alone forever in like a room and like be plenty happy and make my own fun. But yeah, I usually think about it that way. I'm probably not as good of a sharer as I should be.
Yeah, how do you do when things don't go your way?
I figure it out until they do.
Generally.
We
love it. And just as I feel like being a parent, especially like now in this chapter of your life, like
challenging, very challenging for sure. Because I'm so determined to make things work out, it's hard when you're dealing with little kids who are doing everything possible so that they don't go the way you want them to.
oh. Yeah. And how old are your kids?
My son is 6 and my daughter will be 4 next weekend.
Okay, yeah. So really know their own minds. My son is 5.5. That he's my older one. And the other day he's like, I'm not doing homework.
Right.
And I'm like, I think you have to do it. Like my first time here, but I think you have to. And he's like, no, I'm actually not going to do it. And I was like, I have no fucking leverage right now. And also I don't massively care about him doing the coloring.
Right.
And also I'm supposed to be the grown up and you're supposed to listen to me sometimes and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's tricky.
I decided ultimately in the end after crowdsourcing from the group chats and the internet that I would just tell him that if he didn't want to do it, he had to explain to his teacher why he didn't do it.
That's exactly what I do. Whenever my son's like, I don't want to do this homework or I don't want to practice for whatever sport, I'm like, that's fine, but you'll have to explain that to your teacher and your coach. I'm fine with that. It's not my homework. It's not
You
my
own
sport.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That generally works, by the way, because then when they think about it, like, ooh, how am I going to explain this? They're like, I don't love how this conversation's going to go. I'm going to go do that homework.
Yeah, I hope we get there. Right now, he's like pretty anti-authority and feels fine with it. He'll say it with his full chest, but whatever, we'll get there. Okay, so you're growing up sort of as this only child, blended family, but siblings, sort of half siblings, are in a different stage of life than you, and you're growing up in this very Jewish area. Like, what does that look like culturally? Are you doing like Shabbat dinners at home? Are your parents sort of more traditional? Do they have expectations of what you might be when you grow up? What does that look like?
So I grew up reform generally. My dad was conservative, but he kind of leaned into what my mom wanted. So we went to synagogue on high holidays, and I went to Hebrew school until I was bar mitzvahed, and that was like generally the gist of religion. I think
Yeah.
that was very common in like what most Roslyn Jewish families did. Um, so that was that.
Were they
And then
like, we want you to marry someone Jewish one day? Did you feel
yes.
like that was a thing?
Yes. They definitely wanted me to marry someone Jewish one day, but they didn't really hammer that home. Like they didn't put so much pressure on it. Um, and when I started dating, every single person I dated was not Jewish.
Sure.
Every single one. And then the only Jewish guy I ever dated is now my husband.
Aww.
So it just took one, but
It just took one. The right one.
I really wasn't thinking about it that way, and I never leaned that way when I was dating before my husband.
And then professionally, were there any feelings of like, we want you to be a doctor or a lawyer? Like, was there any of that sort of stereotypical tropes?
Absolutely. Yeah. Never doctor, but they wanted me. I think my dad was more open to me doing what I wanted to do. But my mom was the breadwinner of my family, so she was more like, you need to stand on your own 2 feet financially. You need to find a career that can really sustain you. I don't want you ever having to like rely on anyone else. And she wanted me to be in finance or law. That was in her
And
mind.
you did have a chapter in finance,
I sure
right?
did. I sure did. That was all her.
Well, I mean, I think that is a really powerful message, especially like for her. Did they get together when she was older or like what was
Yes.
okay. So like she was a fully formed person when your dad came into the picture.
Yes, for sure. They met when she was, I want to say 34, engaged 35, had me at 36.
Yeah. So
And so
like
in that time period, 34 then is like 40 now,
ancient.
you know? Yeah.
Which is crazy. And sort of like I feel like hearing that from her must have been very persuasive for you because you're watching her having lived this herself.
Absolutely. I mean, she was my hero. She was a fashion designer, boss bitch. And I was like she's traveling the world designing clothes. I mean, as someone who obviously is a creative and loved clothes, she was it. So I'm like, whatever she's doing or telling me to do, like, I'm going to do that.
Wait, that's so interesting though. So she was a fashion designer, but she wanted you to be in finance.
Yes. And so here's the reason. She told me, she's like, Liza, you can love fashion all you want, but the fashion business, the actual business where people make money, is moving to China. And she wasn't wrong. She said it's moving to China. It's not what it was. One day, this garment center in New York City is not going to be what you see today. And it's going to be extremely hard to make a living in fashion if you're not flying back and forth to Hong Kong every 2 weeks. Like, it's just really, really hard. And I want a different path for you.
Wow.
She was completely right, by the way. Everything did move, to Asia, and for the most part. And it's increasingly difficult to make a strong living in the fashion design industry and in fashion in general. So I think she was really just looking out, and she's like, you can love fashion all you want. Get the job that makes you the money so you can buy all the fashion and accessories that would make you happy. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
That's so interesting. So when you were growing up, she's the breadwinner. She's traveling a lot for work. She is probably fabulous as fuck. Like she's probably dressed to the nines, looks really cool. Are you like in the closet with her when she's getting dressed for things? And
Not really, because her hours were insane. She was up at 5 to work out in our house. She was then taking like a 2-second body shower to then turn around and make like a 6:20 train. So as she was out the door, I was waking up or trying to so I could catch her. And then I really only saw her when she got home, and she'd be home around like 7:30.
So
She
you'd see her
really
for like an hour and then you'd be asleep probably.
Yeah, and that was it, and she tried her hardest to, like, spend more time with me and, like, be able to come home early some days, but, like, was no work-life balance at that time, especially for women. Like, you had to do it all, and there was no leniency and no, like, thought process around, like, "Oh, wait, she's, like, a mom. Maybe she needs to be home one night a week at 5 so she can, like, have dinner with her kid." Like, no.
Yeah. And also, like, for her, she's probably, and I can empathize with this, like, thinking, like, I need to try this much harder because I am a woman and I don't want
Absolutely.
people to count me out because I'm a mom. So I
Yes.
need to turbocharge it so that I get to, that I'm staying and I'm leading the room.
Yep. Absolutely, because
Impossible.
it's kind of like in The Devil Wears Prada where I don't remember who says it, but it's like, "There are thousands of other women just waiting to take your spot or take your job." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Totally. And so what was your dad doing when you were growing up?
He worked. He, was, like, a partner in a carpet store, but he just didn't have the same monetary goals as my mom. It wasn't that he couldn't do it or that he didn't, work hard. It was that he felt really comfortable with what he was
Yeah.
earning and where he was at, and my mom just was, like, reaching for the stars. They both grew up with next to nothing, and where our family was already when I was really young, before my mom really, hit her stride, was already like leaps and bounds ahead of whatever my dad ever dreamed of. And for my mom, she's like, no further.
Yeah. Yeah. Insatiable.
Yes.
And so it sounds like he was able to be around more than she was.
Yeah. I saw him more than I saw her, but he still, he left the house around the same time that I left for school. And then he was home, let's say like 5:36. But most of the time I was with a nanny.
Yeah.
So that's like my siblings' running joke is that I was raised by nannies.
Well, I was gonna ask you about your siblings. So I have step siblings who are much older than me, and my stepdad just recently passed away, and I was really close with him because I'm the baby.
Right.
And we've had these interesting conversations about how my experience of him was so different than their experience of him.
Yeah.
Because like I was the last one and he kind of like loved on me and mushed on me more than anybody else because I
Yes.
was the last one. And they don't like harbor any resentment about it, but it was definitely something that like we've talked through, like the dynamics of that and how, we always say no two people get the same parents because they do parent everybody so differently.
100%.
Was
Yeah.
that your experience?
Very much so. It's funny, we've never really talked about it, the three of us, me and my two half siblings, but I know for sure that I got an extremely different version of my dad than they did. I got him, 16 and 22 years after them. And at that point, he had me when he was 44. He was very much like a fully developed adult, like when you're having kids at I think he had my brother at 19.
I mean, forget it.
Yeah. I think or no, maybe his mom was 19 and he was 21, but around that time. And then I had my sister at like 26. We're talking two completely different people. And I think he was also in a different financial position where he was the breadwinner of that relationship and he had all the pressure on him to make things work. And then by the time he was with my mom, there was a lot less pressure for him just because he was totally fine and standing on his own 2 feet, but also knowing that he had my mom as a partner who was working.
I mean, different
So
universe.
very different universe. My dad and I were extremely close. He passed away when I was 14, but up until then, like both of my parents were my idols in different ways. And I do feel really lucky to have had that because I think it's that experience and that love and that admiration for them is what has made me so successful and confident as a person.
Losing a parent at 14 had
Brutal.
at 14. And the one, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I lost my stepdad at 40 or almost 40, and like that was too soon.
Yeah, it's
Like, I
really, really rough. Don't recommend.
0 out of 10 stars.
Yes.
Fuck, that is so hard. And especially because like he was the one that was able to be around a little bit more. It's just the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
we
that
were closer emotionally. We were more similar, and I could go on and on about it. We were just like two peas in a pod. Um, and he was such a special guy, and losing him ripped my heart out for sure for a while. It took me a very long time to recover from that.
Liza, we have so many pieces to the puzzle of who you become already.
I
And
know, I'm a complicated one.
but like I'm so excited about it because I feel like I'm already seeing this person who's here with us today, and I can see how these pieces, you've made some deliberate choices about your life based on the things that you liked or lacked when you were growing up. So I'm excited because I feel like you've really made some choices for yourself that I'm excited to get into. Now, they say sometimes that only children, like you said, can be independent. So you said sometimes like need a partner in crime, but in general, pretty good friends. Like having an only child as a friend is like a pretty good place to be. My cousin is an only child and we are extremely close. Um, Growing up, did you have like a ride or die group of friends who were into the same stuff as you, or were you more of a loner? Not a loner, but
I
a hopper arounder.
I was not a hopper arounder. I had my very close friends, and I had a really small group of friends, maybe like 2 or 3 best friends, but that changed also, I'd say, like, every 5 years just because I was still figuring out who I was. Um, and I had, like, a really unique childhood in a town where a lot of the moms didn't work. I had one who was never around. I was always, like, being driven around by my nanny. My mom wasn't socializing with the other moms. So there's some nuance to what that looked like, and I
Yeah.
think that made it a little bit trickier for me, mm, to, like, really have that group of friends where people are like, "Oh, we've been best friends since 2nd grade." That was not my situation.
Same. Same. And my mom to this day, she was working when I was growing up, and like to this day, she said like it definitely created an interesting dynamic at that time for her socially, where like she did have friends, but there was a little bit of a barrier because she was one of the only ones that was working.
Yep. Same for
So
mine, and she would say, like, the friends that she made, and she did have best friends, were the women that she met on the train because that was her social time, and,
they got
bless
each
her
other.
that she had to do that, and she made those sacrifices to build this, life for herself, but yeah, that was when she got to catch up with people in town, other women, was on the train.
That's really cute. Well, and they also obviously all have this shared thing that they're all going to do a grind because they're all on
Yep,
that like whatever 710 train or whatever it was.
exactly.
Okay, so what were you into? You said you were like figuring out what, who you were going to be, what kind of person you are. I'm still working on that. I'll let you know. Figure it out. Um, what sort of stuff were you into?
I
Like, did you like
was
school?
I liked school. I had a hard time focusing and, like, sitting still, and I never knew what that was until way down the road, which I now know I have ADHD. So I was smart, and I always did well in school, like, academically. My grades were always good to great.
Yeah.
Um But I was not present in the room,
Yeah.
I was always like, "Oh, like, make it end, like, what time is it?" It was always trying to move on to the next
On
thing.
to the next thing.
But I always did well in school. I was definitely chatty in class because I was bored, and I was an athlete. I was very into sports, and my dad was very into sports, and that was, like, our thing. We did
What was
sports
your
together.
what was your sport of choice?
When I was really young, I was doing literally everything. All the camp sports I was doing, and I was doing all the leagues, but I ended up, once I was in like middle school, I ended up focusing on track. My dad ran track
I was
at
gonna guess
NYU.
that for you.
My track girly.
Yeah, you're just
It's one of
giving.
those independent sports people for the only child.
Yeah, I don't know
Mhm.
why.
Yeah, I ran track, and my dad ran track at NYU in college. And he was like so psyched to have that with me. And so I would wake up before school and like run with him
That's so cool.
sometimes. And it was awesome, and it was our thing. And ended up running in our like all county race, and I won all county, and that was the last time he saw me run.
Well, and did you keep running? Do you run still?
I do not. I just started running. I shouldn't say started running. I ran last week for the first time in years because it's really emotional for me. And I just like I had a really hard time getting through the rest of high school and running because it was so tied to him, and it was
He
just
was
like
everywhere.
it was brutal in that sense, in the emotional sense, and I did really well, and I was winning, and that's great, but it was just, like, pretty traumatic for me in my head, and once I left high school, I was like, "I'm not running anymore. I'm done," and now I'm so far out that, like, I have 0 stamina, and I'm so disappointed in, like, where I've let it go that I know he would not be happy, so I started running again last week, and now I'm, like, a client of mine actually is a running coach, and she built me a plan. So I'm gonna start it next week.
Okay, New York Marathon, watch out. Well,
I
I don't know if you were a distance girly, but
I was, but I was like a distance for like track distance, not cross country. I ran the
yeah.
1500, which is like just shy of a mile. It's
So we
brutal.
could just time that by what is it,
26.
26.2?
Yeah, exactly.
Just time that up.
No problem. It's gonna
No,
be
but
fine.
easy peasy, no big deal. Okay, so good at school, but mine's kind of going a million miles a minute. You are enjoying this time in sports. What were the things like? Were you having posters on your walls of bands or Jonathan Taylor
No,
Thomas
I
or
wasn't a big like fan of anyone or anything. I I know it's weird to
No, it's
say.
not. No, it's not.
I didn't really watch TV. I love to listen to music, but I never was like the kind of kid who idolized someone.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not really like I don't know. I just wasn't that kind of person. I think like the most like typical thing I did was maybe collect those like Absolute Vodka ads or the milk ads from way
Yeah,
back
yeah.
when. That was like probably the most normal thing I ever did. But I was like the kid outside. I was the kid outside playing sports. I really wasn't that girly until later on. Um, I just wanted to like be with my dad all the time.
And also sounds like you had energy to burn and
Yes, I had a
you
lot of
needed
energy
be
to
moving.
burn. If I was always like climbing a tree, I would like climb onto the roof of my house. I was like an outdoorsy kid, which
And
you
are
probably would
either
not put together with
no,
this person today.
but I kind of love that. I love a surprise. And I mean I was similar, but I feel like people would maybe more expect that of me than of you because I don't have your job and I also was never in finance. I think I'm more known for being a little bit more crunchy as a person.
Right.
Now your mom's in fashion as you're growing up. Did she give a shit about what you were wearing to school or to social events? Was she weighing in on any of that?
Yes, she definitely was. And I let her in the beginning. I was very much like, all right, you think this is cool? Great. I had opinions, but I think I was more focused on what she liked and trying to make her proud and impress her. But I also was in a peculiar situation where I had a very unique body type and nothing fit me.
What was your
So
body type, if I may
true,
ask?
true beanpole.
Right.
Some kids get made fun of for being overweight. I got made fun of for being too thin. It was
Like olive oil from Popeye, sort
yes,
of.
yes, really not cute. Very tough. And like at many different stages in my childhood, I would be kept in like the cafeteria and been forced by like a lunch aide to finish everything on my plate because, you know, they didn't get it. They didn't
Right.
understand that like different people want, like I wasn't an anorexic 10-year-old.
I just was full. And you're also
Um,
moving all of the time.
And
It
I'm
sounds like.
running a lot and I'm moving a lot. But yeah, so she would have to take my clothing and have everything altered. And there were certain points where I'd go to work with her. And this was at the time when in the garment center, there were actual factories in these buildings. I could like draw something out and she would make it for me in the factory. And I'd like go home with a bag of t-shirts and
That's so
pants.
fucking cool.
It was very cool.
I
I
wish I
like when
could
I
do
left
that now.
when I left Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, I was like, my mom is the coolest.
That's a pretty good one. Like that's a real bonus point. So, okay, so then you go to Wisconsin for college and did you go to the University of Wisconsin?
Yes, in Madison, yeah.
People are fucking obsessed with this school.
It's the best place on earth.
I mean, I knew you were going to say that because you're all
It is.
psychotic about it. I mean,
Oh my
I
God.
don't know if I've ever met a single person who went there who isn't like bleeding whatever blue. Was that the color? Like bleeding it.
Red, but yes,
Red,
I'm
whatever.
bleeding it. I'm bleeding it in every way.
Whatever color it is. I mean, just like I have somebody in my life who's literally 80 and he still gets together with his Wisconsin friends to watch football.
Yeah. I mean,
What
if
is
my
it?
friends were willing to watch football with me, I would. But I'm
What is
definitely
it?
the
What is it
sportiest.
about this place?
It's just a really special intersection of people where you have a lot of smart people who aren't so like academically driven that they wanted to go to an Ivy. You know, like those kids ended up at like Michigan. They were
Okay.
like the ones that maybe would have wanted to be at a Cornell or a Duke or whatever, but they were like, Michigan's great and it has that kind of thing. Like Wisconsin kids are like, yeah, we're smart. We're not like trying to be there. And I find them more down to earth. Like,
Do you hear that, Michigan people? I mean, I know there's like a little bit of a thing.
my nephews go to Michigan. My brother-in-law went to
Just
Michigan. Michigan's
saying.
amazing. I'm not shitting on Michigan, but I do
Listen,
feel
you
like
smarty pants over there. The Wisconsin people are just trying to have a good time.
I do feel like Wisconsin people are just trying to have a good time. I really do. I think they're just trying to have a good time. They love like Big Ten. They love the game day. They love to party. But they're not, they're smart and they work hard.
What was it like for you leaving the coop? I mean, Dad unfortunately has
Yeah.
been gone for a couple of years at that point, 4 years at that point. Mom's still working a lot. What was it like for you to be in this totally different environment all of a
I
sudden?
couldn't get out fast enough. I was ready to fly. I was so ready because I had gone through such trauma at home for a good amount of years, between him being sick and passing and then just trying to survive the rest of it, that I couldn't wait to leave. And I
Just
never
start
looked
over.
back. Yeah, I never looked back. Anyone who was homesick, I'm like, can't relate.
No, yeah. I'll be here for the holidays. Now, did you do like sorority things? Did you do sport things? How were you spending your time when you were in class?
Yeah, I was in a sorority, but I'm the worst sorority girl of all time. I did SDT because it was the sorority that didn't have a house.
Oh,
So I was like,
interesting.
great. I get the perks of the social stuff, but I don't have to live with like 60 girls. Because that was not for this only child.
We're not going to be sharing a bathroom like that.
I don't think, like, I loved camp. I was a camp girl. I went to sleepaway camp, but like
Did you go to Jewish sleepaway camp?
I did. I went to Wani.
Okay, what an iconic
Um,
experience. I talk about this all the time. My husband's not Jewish,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you don't seem to understand here.
No,
This
I
is the
learned
most-
everything there.
The most magical place. Like, anyone who's a regular listener of the pod knows the way you feel about Wisconsin is the way I feel about summer camp.
I feel similarly. Like,
Good.
if you were like, Liza, you have to choose, would you have gone to sleepaway camp or would you have gone to Wisconsin? It would not be clear.
That would be, yeah. It's that formative. It's that tough. So,
Yeah.
okay, so you like the camaraderie, but like sorority life is a particular kind of cohabitation.
Yeah, and girls are tough, man. Girls can be real bitchy and crazy and like I just didn't it wasn't for me, you
Yeah.
know?
Groups
Not
of
really like
girls
a
are
scene girl.
can be a little scary. I've also talked about that on this pod before. Now, okay. This is so interesting to me because a lot of the things that you're telling me, I'm like, I could see this woman going into finance. Like, I could see that. Like, not trying to like exude a hyper feminine thing, no bullshit, down to business. Like, this makes sense. So, you're preparing for this finance track. This is what you have in your mind you're going to do in college.
Not
Question
really. I
mark.
just knew I didn't know what I was going to do in college. I just knew I needed to study something in the world of business because it would open a lot of doors, and I was hoping by the end of college I would have some, big aha moment where I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. So I really just wanted to I went to college to have a good time and like learn a bunch of different things. And I didn't necessarily know where it would lead me. I didn't go in with like a clear path.
So, what happened when you finished?
When I finished, I got a job at a bank in their like more I'd call it like a mortgage team. It was like sales, private wealth, mortgage, all kind of like intertwined into one. And I started there in September because I did one more summer at camp, the forest department, as a counselor.
Critical.
Yeah, formative. Camp was so great. But so I went to that bank and then I was there for 5 or 6 months before getting poached by one of my clients at the bank to work for him, and he was starting this private wealth group for athletes. And I was
Cha-ching.
like, well, that's a way more glamorous version of what I'm doing right now. Yes, I'm coming with you. And at the time, like the boss that I had was not nice to me either. And like I was being sexually harassed by one guy, and then the other guy was like told me that I wore like polka dot tights, and he was like, those tights are very distracting. Meanwhile, I'm wearing like a dress past my knees. I'm like, if you have a problem with seeing my calves in polka dots, we got a bigger problem.
We got a bigger problem. Keep your dick in your pants. Also,
Seriously.
when you were being sexually harassed, was there an internal story of like, men are just like this, like, rolling your eyes, or were you like, this is fucked up?
It was really tricky. It was a really tricky situation. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't handle it right because I never said a word, and I was super uncomfortable. But I just assumed like this is life as a woman in the workplace in a man-dominated field.
And was there anybody you confided in to be like, you should hear what my boss is doing? What a
No.
dickhead.
It was actually my boss's boss, and I had done so like the real time where I was like in a really bad spot. I had just closed this deal with the guy who ended up hiring me that I left with, and it was a really big deal. It was like a really big project I was working on. And he was like, Liza, congratulations on what you did. I want to take you out for a celebratory like dinner or something. And at the time, I'm 22. I didn't know. Now looking
And
back,
also,
I'm like,
that's kind of a normal thing on the face of it for a manager to do if they're celebrating a win.
right.
On the
But
face of it.
if I look back, it should have been me, my manager, and this guy.
Yes.
And said it was just me and this guy. And I go to this dinner and he's ordering like flights of tequila shots. And I'm like, no, like, I don't like, no. And then I
Yeah.
remember it, like, it was a whole night that he had planned. And by the end, I was just in a totally uncomfortable position. And like fake drinking because I'm like, I need to have my wits about me right now.
Smart
And
girl.
I go to get in my car to like go back to my apartment, and he blocked me from getting in my taxi.
Mm.
And I literally had to like duck under his arm and go in. And then I didn't even know how to go into office the next day. I quit like 1 week later. Because I told the guy that I was leaving, to work for this sports agent type of guy. I was like, I'm going to need to start earlier. Because I'm not going back there.
Woof.
Yeah. But like at the
But-
time, I honestly never thought too deeply into it because at the time there was no Me Too movement. It was like, girl, that's life. You're in finance. You're 22.
Do you
Brace.
think about now? I feel like sometimes I look back on different points in my early career and I'm like, oh, mine were more, luckily I didn't have situations like that, but mine were more like around pay inequality and stuff like that, where I was just like, no, like it's not like a gender thing. It's like, clearly I'm not working as hard as that guy. Or like I kept trying to rationalize why it wasn't about the system being fucked up or the person being fucked up. I was just like, no, like that's totally normal. That's just what it is. And now I think about with my kids, I have a son and a daughter, like the conversations I want to have with them before they go into the working world. I feel like it's a different generation, but I'm just like, I don't know how to prepare you for this, but I don't want you to be as naive as I was.
Yeah. So I don't think I think I had a bigger issue with my inferiority complex than I did with being naive. I think I was constantly doubting my right to be in a room and not believing in myself enough and feeling like I'm just lucky to be here. And so I never spent enough time thinking about like, well, what are they making versus me?
Which is so interesting.
It was like
by
a
the
real
way.
insecurity that I had.
Which is so interesting because you're being raised by this boss bitch who's like crushing and telling you got to go crush too.
Right. I think with that though, and I love my mom to pieces, but there was a lot of pressure and like, is this good enough? I am like I kind of alluded to before, this Wisconsin mindset where I'm like, I'm here to have a good time. I want to work hard. I'm smart, but it's not an end all be all. Because at that point, and in general, this is how I live my life. There's nothing worth my peace. There's nothing, no amount of anything
I love that.
that's worth that. And after going through what I did with my dad, could I have worked harder and gone to a better school? Sure. But that's not what I wanted.
For what?
But I was battling that. Because she wanted me to go to Penn,
Right.
So I'm battling with someone who has these big aspirations for me. And I think because that was such a battle sometimes, it definitely instilled a bit of insecurity in me when I was younger.
Yeah, and you said you're more like peas in a pod with your dad who had
Yes.
a different set of priorities. So
Yes. So
you
it was
don't wanna
just,
disappoint.
it was different. I was working through a bunch of things at the time and had this inferiority complex of like, am I good enough to be here?
Get
And,
it.
with time and with success and, all the experiences that I've had in different fields, that growth is what gets you to a place where then you start asking yourself, am I making enough?
Yes. Exactly. Yes. I totally get that. Where does your husband enter the picture?
My husband enters the picture not very far down, but pretty far down the road. I had been in finance for 5 or 6 years. I had lived in London. I was now back in New York. And when I was in London, I was in a very serious relationship for like 5 years. And when I got back to New York and decided like I was for sure staying here, he moved here. And then I ended it because I didn't see myself marrying him, even though I was like mad for him. It just wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, a friend of mine from London was like, at this point, I'm 27 years old, was like, Liza, you've never dated a Jewish guy. Like, why? And I was like, I just wasn't into the guys like in Roslyn. Like, it just wasn't it. And she was like, well, there's a lot more out there. Why don't you download one of those apps that now people are talking about? Because this was still like early-ish app phase. It was like 2 years into the apps. Why don't you download JSwipe and go out with some
J-Swipe.
Jewish guys? And I'm like, you know, whatever I've been doing is not working for me, so why not? And he was the first date I went on.
Wow.
And I really didn't want a relationship because I just got out of such a long one. So I was like, give me a minute. I want to go like have some fun. But he was like, well, I've been having fun for a really long time and I'm done. So you're done.
So when he meets you, you're a finance girly.
I'm a finance girly. I actually covered his fund, not his fund, but the fund he worked at. I covered their trading team, but we never met. So I'd been in his office a bunch of times, but I dealt with the traders and he was on the research side.
Okay. And then at what point in your relationship do you decide to make the pivot career-wise?
I made one pivot before my final pivot. And
what was the intermediary pivot?
The intermediary pivot was to Salesforce because I knew sales. I was in sales trading. So I was like, what's the difference between selling a trading platform and selling CRM software?
Yeah.
Just need to learn the software.
Also, it seems like a fun company to work for.
Fantastic company to work for. Really a fantastic company to work for. I met so many amazing people. But once I was engaged, no, it was right after I got married. Once I got married, I was like, okay, I want more flexibility. I don't want to be entertaining like hedge fund guys till 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I want a different lifestyle and I want more flexibility. And I had already started my like fashion Instagram on the side 2 years prior to leaving finance. And it was really just my creative outlet. But I was like, you know what? I'll be able to have more fun with this if I leave. So I went to Salesforce. I really loved it. And I had extra time and more flexibility to work on my Instagram. And I did, but not like full time, not like full tilt the way I am now, you know?
Did you have a view to monetizing and like making that a proper side hustle, or was it just a fun project?
It was just a fun project. It felt very pie in the sky for me because I was too embarrassed to really go all in on it because I felt like such a loser being like, look at my outfit. Like, look at, today I'm using this lip gloss. You should like it because I like it. You know, I just felt like dumb. I think everybody, when they start Instagram, when they start that journey, almost everybody is like, what am I doing? This is so embarrassing. Like,
relate.
Cringe.
Yeah.
But then it something happens in every creator's journey where they're like, wait a second, this could be a business. And you have this like aha moment where you're like, I think I should put more effort into this because I think I might be onto something and then I could have a really flexible, lovely life. So let me see what I can do here.
And what was the conversation like with your husband when you're making that transition?
From Salesforce to like content creator stylist. It was tough. It was tough because he was like,
it's like not what we signed up for. I went through the same thing and that's why I'm asking.
But it was tough in a different way. He wasn't like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Like, that's crazy. He was more just like, okay, well, what's your plan? Because I know, Liza, that you want to be this financially independent woman. So, like, what's your plan to being that in that role? Not that he was against it. He was just kind of like, huh? Like, he didn't get it.
Yes.
And I also didn't get it. I was also like, I don't know what my plan is. I just know I want to maybe try, do it. He was almost more sure of me trying it than I was because I felt like still really insecure about it.
This is literally the exact dynamic in this home.
If I said to him like, no, Ian, here's my plan. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to go do it. He'd be like, great, I support you. But in my head, I'm like, I kept wanting him to tell me, you have to do this, do this. And he just wasn't going to do that. Which ended up being the right thing. I needed to believe in myself enough to make that leap. He couldn't build that confidence for me.
Yes.
you know?
This is literally the ongoing, still to this day, conversation in my house.
Same for me. I mean, I'm still kind of like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And then in the backdrop of all of this, did you always know you wanted to have kids?
Yes, I always knew I wanted to have kids.
And did you have views on, like, did you want to have one kid because you were an only child? Did you want to have more because you were an only child? Like, did you have an opinion on that based
I
on
had
how
a
you grew up?
very strong opinion on that. I wanted to have at least two kids, because if I've learned anything from my experience losing my dad, you don't want to be an only child going through loss. I know it's like a really morbid way to think about it, but it's incredibly lonely and difficult, in a way that I don't think people who have siblings can understand, you know?
Yeah.
And so God forbid something were to happen to me or to Ian, I need my kids to have each other.
Yeah.
And that was like, honestly, my number one thing. My number two thing is it's really fun to have a sibling. I in my head, I imagine it's really nice to have someone to, like, when you're on vacation, you have someone to play in the sand with. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like every memory I have from my, like, childhood vacations, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Liza. Do you want to play with me?" And it's like, "No."
You're just alone in the sand, building your
God.
solitary sand castle.
No,
The
I was a
girl and her-
networker. I was the sand networker. I was, yeah, and which is why I think I became this, like, salesperson.
There you go.
But that
Yeah,
was
you're
like my
"I'm
whole
fun,
life.
come play."
Literally pitching myself to strangers on the beach.
I mean, that takes balls. Okay, so you have your first child, and where are you professionally at that point?
I'm at Salesforce. And I had my son 1 week before the whole world shut down in COVID. And fortunately, I had a 6-month mat leave, which is the
Shout
blessing
out
of
Salesforce.
Salesforce, seriously, because you really need it. And then the whole world shut. I'm living in Long Island City, and then I moved into my stepdad and mom's house in East Hampton. And after 4 weeks, my husband's like, "Can't do this forever."
Shocker.
Yeah, I know. And they love each other, by the way. I think my mom, like,
Does
loves
it?
him
Yeah.
more than me. But I found this house in South Carolina that was basically free. It was this, like, 4-bedroom insane house on the beach, but nobody was traveling at that time. So I got this house for, like, nothing, and we lived there for almost 2 months. And so at this point, my son was, like, 3.5 months old. So we did a little bit of the Hamptons, a little bit of South Carolina, and I'm, like, on maternity leave, and the whole world is closed.
So, okay, I had my first also in that time, a little bit later than you, in September of 2020. What was it like for you to be totally isolated with your first child?
Very difficult, very lonely. The perks of COVID was that I didn't feel like FOMO. I was doing what everyone else was doing, but I was also the first of my friends, like my local friends, to have a kid. So not only was I, like, alone with my son, but I also didn't really have anyone to talk to about it, who I was, like, super close to. I have 2 other friends who live far away, but there's something about, like, your friends that are physically closer to you,
Yeah.
that makes you want to talk to them about it more. But it was just, like, between not having anyone to talk to and just, like, being alone, it was pretty dark. And I definitely had a bit of postpartum also. I had prepartum with my son, which I didn't even know existed. So it was a ride. Took me a bit.
Same. And for me, at least, I didn't realize that I was as postpartum-y as I was until I had the second one.
Same.
And then I
You
was
start
like,
you start recognizing the patterns the second time, where you're like, "Oh, that's why I feel that way."
yeah. And also, like, a friend of mine recently had a baby, her first baby, and it's like a couple days in home from the hospital, and I can just hear in her voice on the phone, like, she's starting to have a little bit of a freak out. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to come over for 10 minutes, just really quick. I'm going to come over for 10 minutes. she or her husband are there, and like the simple act of being able to be like, okay, show me how you're trying to breastfeed right now. And I'm not like a lactation consultant person, but I'm like, let me show you how to use the pump. Let me show you all the things that I wish I had had. It wasn't like somebody
Yeah.
was up in my space all the time, but like I'm on the fucking internet watching the YouTube videos, the Instagram reels, trying to figure out stuff that in normal life we would have just observed other people doing.
Yeah, true. I never even thought about that part, but you're totally right.
You couldn't, because like you can't copy something that you can't see. So that's rough. Okay, so then how old were you, or how old was your son when you pivoted to full-time styling?
Um, it was after my daughter was born. I stayed at Salesforce for 4 years. And I left um when he was 3.5 or 4. I've only been full-time styling for 2.5 years, let's say. Not even.
And for you, like when you kind of got your first paying client,
Yeah.
were you like, I like this is like, was it like drug? Like, this is so fun. I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
I
How
just
did it
was
feel?
yeah, I was freaking out. My first paying client was 4.5 years ago or 5 years ago now. And I was working 2 jobs for a while. It was really rough, very tough. But when I got that first client, I was like, "Oh my God, I can monetize this. I can use." It was kind of like A Beautiful Mind where like everything's floating in the air and I'm like, "Wow, I finally just put the pieces together where I can use Instagram as my marketing engine to make the people reach out to me to then have the styling clients, and it can just like, keep working itself in this, you know, rotation." But when I got it, I literally reached out to 2 or 3 of my friends and was like, "So here's what's going on, and here's the service I'm offering. I really don't want to charge a lot because I really need the experience of doing this professionally. What do I do?" And they're all like messaging me what they think the price should be, what they think it should include. And it was this kind of like group chat about like, how is Liza going to build this business? This was before I had like Claude to be like, "Hey, Claude, here's what I'm thinking. What should I charge?"
love that. I love
Yeah.
that though, because I mean, use Claude in my workflow also. And also, there's something about the buy-in of your friends to your vision
Yeah.
that is that much more energizing. Like if Claude tells me I'm doing a good job, I'm like, you're a computer. But if one of my friends is
Right.
like, you are crushing right now, that will send me on a happy float for like the rest of the day.
Yeah, they were very behind me on like what I was doing and what I wanted to do, almost more so than I was. And once I had this first client who happened to have been getting married at the same venue that I got married at, and I started in bridal. That was where I started.
Woof.
Yeah,
Intense.
it's a lot. It can be really fun, but it can be really intense. But
Nothing's more intense than a bride.
once I started, I was like grinding. I was giving her my best, best, best. I looked at every single bridal anything that there was to look at, and I was working on a really tight budget too, because I'm a very, like, at this point, entry-level stylist who's charging an entry-level fee, and so therefore my client is most likely also looking for a tighter budget because they chose this entry-level stylist, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I just remember scouring the internet and working probably 60 hours on this $300 job. Um, but I was so happy to do it. And I still am happy to do it.
And what, like, when people are coming to you, now that you've branched out and you do a lot of like everyday sort of style for people, like what are people asking you?
All my clients are different, and the best example I can give you is literally what happened to me last night. I get a text from one of my higher profile clients saying, "I have this friend who's going to a state dinner white tie function with the King of England on Tuesday."
Sure.
I was like, "Of course. Can I have her reach out to you to style her?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And at this point, I'm like, "Great. How do I rearrange my entire day to make this happen?" And then use every contact I have to get gowns sent to me which are actually on their way right now. And then this morning, spent my morning in Bergdorf's trying on gowns and long opera length gloves. But that's, that's my last 24 hours. Earlier this week, it was a mom of two who lives on the Upper West Side who feels like she doesn't really have a good handle on her own sense of style and wardrobe, but doesn't really feel like she's dressing her body type appropriately. And like, how do I build her a new wardrobe for like a casual, she's an author, casual woman. So every day, every client is totally different. And it's the beauty of the job, right? Because it's exciting.
So the thing, I mean, this is similar to how I have an absolute blind spot on like interior design.
Yeah.
I would have a really hard time putting myself in somebody else's shoes stylistically. Because
Yeah.
obviously not everybody's a little Liza walking around who wants to look like what you like, but they trust that
Mhm.
you have good taste. How do you like, it's kind of like acting. Like you have to sort of like put yourself in somebody else's shoes in a way.
Yes. And I'd say that is a very strong suit of mine, in every way. I am a major empath. I'm the person you tell a story to, and I just start sobbing for you, like if it's a sad one. Or you tell me a funny story, and I can't stop laughing because I can imagine exactly how it feels to be in your position. I actually think it's like an ADHD trait, the more that I read about it. But I am very good at putting myself in someone else's shoes, both emotionally and physically, like understanding if I had this body type, how would I want to dress it? And if I felt this way about my body, how would I feel in this color or this fabric? Um,
I
and
think
I,
that is such a skill. Like it is such a superpower.
yeah,
It really
it
is.
is. It is. And it's one of the skills and things about myself that I really like. And it's something that translated very well in sales that now translates well to styling. Like they're actually very closely related in that sense.
And how does it translate to parenthood? Because I feel like that's also a superpower when you have no two kids are the same, right? And I
Yes.
have two really different kids, and sometimes it's kind of hard for me to understand one of them or both of them, depending on the day. But I feel like there's something to extrapolate there too, right?
Yeah, I do understand them extremely well, and I see myself in both of them, even though they are extremely different. And I think the hardest thing sometimes is that one of my kids has elements of me that are elements of me that I don't like, that are really tough to get the reins on. And that's the hardest part to parent because you're
Yeah,
like, I know exactly why you are this way. And I know exactly why you're handling this situation in this way. But that doesn't make it easier for me to actually be the one dealing with it, you
totally.
know?
I mean, it's like intensive, some sort of like intensive therapy of speaking to your inner child
Yeah.
because they're right fucking there.
Yeah. And so sometimes out loud I'll say like, why are you doing that? But in my head I'm like, I know exactly why you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're really excited. You have no control over your body right now and you're just excited. Like you're happy. So I'm
Yeah.
like, ay ay ay. Stop.
Totally. Totally. Now, okay, so your mom had opinions about what you wore growing up. How are you with your kids and what they want to wear?
I let them do what they want to do most of the time, unless it's like, a big event like they have a concert or they're going to synagogue or there's something bigger there where it's about like a respect thing and there other families are taking pictures, so it matters what my kid looks like, that they're not wearing rainbow hair and,
Sure.
glitter. But generally I want them to experiment. I don't really mind what they wear as long as they care. I want them to dress intentionally. I think that getting dressed and thinking about how you present yourself to the world is really important, not from the materialistic sense, but in this confidence building sense.
Yeah, you've said before that getting dressed is a form of self-care, right?
Yes. And I firmly believe that. So I'm like, if you think that this outfit looks great and that you feel confident and you're presenting yourself in a way that makes you feel good, that's good enough for me. Mind you, my daughter might be walking out in like a unicorn pajama top
Of course.
with like some sparkly pink leggings that I definitely did not buy her, but somebody did and they made it into her drawer,
Match.
fine. Um, as long as there's thought put into it and as long as they're proud when they step out of their room, that's all I care about.
Now, what's your take on like style versus fashion? Like this idea that like everybody kind of has their personal style, and
Yeah,
how does that where's that in the Venn diagram of like the fashion of the day?
sure. So style for me is timeless. Style is the way you put different pieces together, and the pieces are the fashion. The pieces could be anything. And um your style changes, let's say, after every 7 years. The general style is going to change because of what life phase you're in and how you feel about yourself and the world and your body. But fashion could be seasonal, where you're like, oh, I kind of like barrel jeans, and that's not something you ever would have put on yourself, 5 years ago. Or fringe, or things that come in as trends. I see that as more like high fashion and fashion trends.
And what do you think if you had to, and I know I'm asking you this off the cuff,
Yeah,
so,
no worries.
but like if there is something that you think people, like the biggest kind of mistake people are making in dressing themselves, do you think there's something that you see time and again, like, oh, they're wearing the wrong size for their body, or they're not dressing for their, like, what's sort of like the recurring theme that's often an aha moment for your clients that you're just like, guys, this is common sense?
You hit the first one, and it's the size. And it comes into play a lot. So a lot of times women who are really tiny will often buy sizes that are too big. And that might be because maybe they weren't always tiny, like the women that I'm dealing with. Maybe they went through a phase of their life where they were bigger. And they still have this like thought in their brain that they're not the size that they are.
Yeah.
And then it goes the other way as well, where there's a woman who's larger who really doesn't want to be, and maybe she used to be smaller, and so she's still trying to squeeze into a different size. Um, and then most of all, and this is probably my number one thing, is that people try on clothing off the rack and expect it to fit them perfectly. And it's not supposed to be that way. We do the best we can with clothing off the rack, but the extra $15 to hem something or pinch the waist or take in the arm is worth it every single time, because now you've just taken this garment and made it a custom garment without having to pay for a custom garment.
That is one of the things that I always hear, and I'm like, I do not have the logistical bandwidth to be that bitch like, I can't even do dry cleaning. I can't even.
I hear you. My dry cleaning gets picked up now, so we've come to a whole new level of life.
Yeah. I can't. One more errand I can't do. Now, right now, I'm seeing some things that are concerning to me, and I
Tell
know I
me.
will maybe fall prey to them.
Zzz.
I probably will with enough exposure, but we're back to low slung jeans again.
Yeah.
We're back
Yeah.
to a ballet flat that like my geriatric fucking feet aren't going to be able to handle. We're back to jellies.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Um, so
Maybe.
the low slung jeans, I like them. I think you have to have a really specific body type for it to work.
Yeah, olive oil.
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 kids, so the skin factor is a little different. But the jelly shoes, I'm fine with it. I don't understand jelly shoes that are $800 from some of these like luxury designers. That feels really ridiculous and like some kind of social experiment. Honestly, they're like, let's see what we can get away with. Will they
Yeah,
do it? Will they buy it? Like,
they
guess
will.
what?
Turns out they will.
They're sold out. So like there's things like that that just don't really make sense to me. And it's all about signaling
Yeah.
and, showing people that you have spent the money on this and that and the other thing. But there are some trends that are interesting to play with, but who knows what will stick,
Now, you just raised a point that I want to make sure I get to, because obviously not everybody lives in New York, so not everybody can work with Liza, or I'm sure you travel. But like, for people who don't live near you or have the opportunity to work with you or have an opportunity to work with another stylist, I thought this idea, these capsules that you do, is a really interesting thing, and I hadn't seen that before. So will you just explain how that works?
Yeah, so it's basically my way of building a capsule wardrobe each season where I scour every website, everything, and all the pieces in the capsule I try to keep under 350 so that it's like really just kind of marked. And so like a top really ends up being like under 150. A blazer would be around that like 250 to 350 mark. I try to make it so that it's at a price point that's approachable, but it's like a way of getting access to personal styling and a really curated selection of items each season without having to pay, the thousands of dollars that a stylist costs.
So
And so
smart.
I build this whole document together, and it takes ages, mostly because by the time I finish, a lot of the pieces have sold out because the good stuff goes.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and then find something new to fit in that slot. And I want the full size range to be available when it goes live. So there's a lot of hours that go into building it, but it's a really great way to save yourself time and effort and ordering and returning to get like great pieces for a new season.
Such a smart idea.
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed this so much. I feel like hearing about your sort of childhood, the things you were into, the things you were exposed to, the types of parenting styles you were exposed to. Now I'm seeing this woman who has moved out of the city, is with her family. You've made time to be present with your kids and for your kids. You're showing them that you're doing something that you really care about. And you're kind of building this whole new chapter based on the stuff that you liked and maybe reacting to some of the stuff you didn't like from being a kid.
Yeah.
You are now your own self-empowered boss woman on your own terms. You're not rushing to get the train at 7:00 in the morning or whatever. And now you're looking forward to, a whole new chapter with your kids and watching them grow up. Are there things that you kind of tell yourself, like, I want to make sure they know this, or like, there's something I want them to know about how I feel about them or what I want for them? Do you kind of have those in your mind?
I do. I think the number one thing I want for them is passion. I don't think I have the typical like Jewish mother mindset that I think we all grew up with. I very much want them to find something they love and be the best at it, because you can actually make an amazing living in anything if you're the best at it. Doesn't matter what it is. Right now, my son says he wants to be a landscaper. Great. I love that. Have the best landscape business around. Like
Yeah, I could use him out front right now. It's rough out there.
there's plenty, if we know anything, after being homeowners, there's plenty of money to be made in landscaping.
Yeah. Very
So
lucrative.
I'm very much like, I don't really mind what they do as long as they love and care deeply about what they're doing. I believe in work ethic and working hard and caring a lot about what you do and how you do it. So that's really like my biggest thing. And I just want them to see that like mom and dad earned everything that you enjoy. Nothing was given to us. And it wasn't. We both had lovely childhoods, but we're not the kids where like the parents are like, here's the deposit on your house. Like that was not us.
Yeah.
So I just want them to have that work ethic to build something for themselves and love what they're doing.
I love it. Well, this has been so much fun, Liza.
I'm like having the best time. I could sit here for hours.
I know. I was thinking you're an incredibly good hang. Like I could see you being a
Thank
great
you.
time. You're a good hang.
Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at mutha.life for a daily look at all things mother. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mother Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.